Hello and welcome to The Report, Cal State Fullerton's premier source for news, views, and info. Thanks for joining us on our first episode of the new semester. I'm Michelle Gao.
And I'm Shayera Arias.
I'm Nicholas Garcia.
And I'm Evan Boydston. On today's episode, we will be discussing the controversy surrounding the 49ers second-string quarterback Colin Kaepernick and his decision to sit during the national anthem, as well as a political update from this unique election.
Plus, we'll be talking about the Stanford rapist who was released 3 months early from prison after only having a 6-month sentence.
Also, we'll be bringing you the latest on the Zika virus and the unforeseen repercussions the fight to combat the mosquito has had on the environment, as well as a clip on the construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline through Trivial Globals.
All this and more on today's episode of The Report.
Before we delve into our first hot topic, we'd like to invite you to be a part of the discussion this semester season. Click on the link in the caption of any of our report episodes to fill out a secure Google form with your opinion on any controversial issue that we've talked about now or in the past, as many of these issues are reoccurring and evolving, ranging from gun control to abortion, climate change, or the state of politics right now. All we ask is to please keep it civil, and as with any essay, cite your sources. On to our hot topics. San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick has willingly involved himself in controversy by refusing to stand for the national anthem in protest of the treatment of African Americans and minorities in the United States. Kaepernick stated, quote, "I am not going to stand up to show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color." End quote. The 49ers issued a statement about Kaepernick's decision stating, quote, "We recognize the right of an individual to choose and participate, or not, in our celebration of the national anthem." End quote. However, refusal to support the American flag as a means to take a stand has brought incredible backlash before and likely will in this instance. Kaepernick said that he is aware of what he is doing and that he knows it will not sit well with a lot of people, including the 49ers. Many would say this is just a publicity stunt since Colin Kaepernick is the 49ers' second-string quarterback and could very likely be at the end of his career. In our extremely polarized yet patriotic nation, what's your guys' take on this?
It's a good thing that he is showing support for a certain specific issue that's going on in society right now. But there definitely are other ways that he could have gone about it without, not necessarily, I want to say the word hurting other people's feelings, but there's so many families that are hurting right now because of the military, that so many people are out and death all over the world. And you're letting them know that you're going to be disrespectful because you want to make a stand for a certain topic.
He is hurting too. He's not just like those other people with those families. He is representing how he's feeling during this time, during this era, and as well as representing those who can't speak for themselves or who don't have that media attention. I support him because think about it. His position, this is the most effective way for him to get his message across and for him to get his voice heard. He's using his position, which a lot of celebrities or a lot of athletes or people with public status should be doing.
I don't know that this is the best way. I agree that he has the right to, protest. As President Obama even said, he has the constitutional right to protest during the anthem if he wants to. I don't think that that's the question. I disagree that this is the place to do it. I don't think that this is the time to protest police brutality. Protesting during the national anthem for police brutality, I don't know if that relates. I think he could have found a better way to use his power and his power as a celebrity.
I agree. And here's this. In the post-game press conference, he was wearing a shirt sporting Fidel Castro, who was, he has committed more human rights violations in his life than any other person in the Americas. So it's kind of the irony of that.
Yeah.
What side is he actually
He's
taking?
contradicting himself.
Cubans would rather risk death crossing the sea than live in a Castro regime. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like he's not going about it in the best way possible at all.
That's true.
The fact that he is wearing a Fidel Castro shirt, it's the irony of the First Amendment of free speech. The fact that Castro never allowed his people to have, but he is sporting this shirt. So it's like, come on. You got to figure it out. Like, what side are you actually on?
Exactly. He's almost making himself look like a brat in a way. Like one day he's acting out this way, and then the next day he's contradicting himself, and then he's like, you know what? I'll give you $1 million to whatever to support the situation out of his 100 million paycheck. That's 1% of what he's
Yeah,
making.
I think he got 16 million just for sitting down during that game in regards to how his
because
his pay
he's
is
not
out.
a starter.
Yeah, and he's not starting.
He's not starting.
Well, I don't think any of those things are relevant to what the actual issue or event was happening.
Well, it's relevant to his career.
It is. But for Kaepernick, what was I saying? Okay, for someone I agree with Nick and all of you in saying that maybe it wasn't the correct time and place to do so. But correct time and place to do so. However, if you're an athlete and if you're a part of any organization, whether it be even on campus, like another club or Greek, whatever, and you're out there publicly supporting whatever, right? You should be following what they state. So for him to take a stand away from the Star Spangled Banner, I support him because he himself doesn't believe what the Star Spangled Banner is representing. It's supposed to be all equality, one country united under this one flag. And right now it is a really divided time.
It is.
It is.
So Hillary Clinton's campaign is hurling a familiar accusation at Donald Trump. Nearly 2 weeks after the GOP presidential candidate alleged that Clinton was running a pay-to-play scheme during her time in the U.S. State Department, the Clinton campaign is now ripping Trump for the same thing. The Washington Post reported that the Donald J. Trump Foundation paid a fine to the IRS over an illegal $25,000 contribution that the charity made to a group tied to Pam Bondi, the Florida Attorney General and a Trump supporter. For its part, the Trump Foundation has denied any wrongdoing over its $25,000 donation. Jeffrey McConney, a senior vice president at the Trump organization, stated, quote, "It was just an honest mistake. It wasn't done intentionally to hide a political donation. It was just an error," end quote. Meanwhile, several dozen pages of documents released Friday from the FBI's Hillary Clinton email probe show the former Secretary of State repeatedly claimed to have little training or understanding about the classification process, despite leading the department that handled such information on a regular basis and having security clearance. According to the files, Clinton claimed to have relied on the judgment of her aides and other officials to handle classified material appropriately. She even told investigators when asked what the C marking meant before a paragraph in an email marked confidential that, quote, she did not know and could only speculate it was referencing paragraphs marked in alphabetical order, end quote. In this unorthodox election filled with controversies from both sides, which candidate has the upper hand and why, and how can the opposing side, what can they do to gain traction?
So, I mean, I guess for me, according to a lot of experts, Trump going to Mexico, it was kind of out of the blue, but it actually resonated pretty well with the Trump supporters and along with a lot of the political analysts. But then in regards to after he came back, he said that there was no discussion of the payment of the wall. So in regards to his strategy, what he's doing, I don't know why he would even do that. Why when the president even tweeted out after saying, like, I made it clear saying that I'm not going to be paying for the wall. So he shot himself in the foot with that because the polls are tightening right now. It's going to be a pretty close election, but after something like this, like, who knows what's going to happen? It just shows his negligence of his own strategy and when he goes off cuff. And it's just I'm trying to figure out. I think a lot of people are trying to figure out what he's doing. He just does whatever he wants.
Well, I think that's a reflection of the fact that his campaign is not being run by any professional campaign staff, anybody. It's just pretty much run out of the closet, basically. Basically ran out of a little office in Trump Tower, and nothing's being professionally done in the campaign, and that reflects when he goes and makes these off-the-cuff statements or he contradicts himself. If Hillary Clinton, and we see this with the Clinton Foundation controversy, the Clinton Foundation is one of the greatest charities around the world. It helps so many people, and more people than Trump could even imagine helping. So when he says, "Oh, it's just a mistake," we kind of agree with him. "Oh, no problem, it's just a mistake." When she does it, it's a whole media outlash.
But here's the thing with the Clinton Foundation: they've accepted an insane amount of money from Saudi Arabia, and for someone who's as such a prominent feminist, when Saudi Arabia is ran by Sharia law, what's your take on that?
Well, you know what? I agree with you on that. I agree that, and they have stopped taking donations from foreign nations, such as Saudi Arabia. And I agree with you on that, but they help 11 million people receive AIDS funds. And back when the Clinton Foundation began in 2002, only 200,000 people who in the world were receiving AIDS medication. And now over 11 million people are receiving AIDS medication because of the Clinton Foundation. 26 million people are receiving clean drinking water because of the foundation. So I don't agree with the policies of the countries that are donating to them. However, they're making a bigger difference in the world. And as Bill Clinton said, we're doing more good than harm. And I agree with that.
One thing that I did find that was very interesting was what she said about her, now that we were talking about negligence, saying that the C stood for, paragraph, alphabetical.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how do you, as a potential president of the United States, say something like that when all it makes, the logic to that is, so what about A? What about B? What about A, B, C, D, E, F, G? That's not the only letter in the alphabet. So clearly you're making these excuses for something so sloppy.
I guess that will be for the American people to decide in November, as I'm sure they have opinions on our next topic. Stanford student and convicted rapist of an unconscious woman, 21-year-old Brock Turner, was released earlier than his 6-month sentence time in jail. He's expected to return to his family's home in the suburbs of Dayton, Ohio, where he has been ordered to complete 3 years of probation and enter a sex offender management program. Greene County Sheriff Gene Fisher told CNN, quote, he will have 5 days to register as a sex offender and must register again every 90 days. Turner's picture, conviction information, and address will be publicly available on Ohio's state sex offender registry. Quote, end quote. Many people are upset Turner wasn't sentenced to longer time in jail, as in many past cases of convicted rapists have been sentenced an average of 15 to 20 years. Stanford's survivor read her victim impact letter in court before Turner's sentencing. I am not just a livid victim. In reply to her letter, United States Vice President Biden wrote, quote, you were failed by a culture on our college campuses where 1 in 5 women is sexually assaulted year after year, a culture that promotes passivity, that encourages young men and women to turn a blind eye, end quote. After serving just 3 months of his 6-month sentence, this has not only led to a debate on sentence length for the white and privileged, but the state of women's rights in America. In the last election cycle, Republican State Representative Todd Aiken claimed it, quote, if it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try and shut the whole thing down, end quote. And Rick Santorum stated, quote, rape victims should make the best of a bad situation, end quote. And after members of the Republican Party continue to try to defund Planned Parenthood and restrict a woman's right to an abortion, this stems a large debate over women's rights in this country. There's been some controversial beliefs and opinions about women's rights. Can rape victims make the best of a bad situation, and should they? Should they have the option of aborting the fetus if she gets pregnant?
Well, I mean, the whole Brock Turner thing, like that.
Yeah.
So they're calling it sexual assault if he's doing something to an unconscious woman. That's rape. Like I really don't understand that. And he was out after serving 3 months. There definitely is a serious problem. There's people. I mean this stems from the way that they were raised too. Because that's never been in the back of my mind, and whenever I go out or anything like that. And it was said that he was coming back, I think, from a fraternity party, and I'm in a fraternity, and I've never had that thought in my entire life. No. That shows that's the fundamental way that he was raised. So shame on his parents for that.
Absolutely. That's unacceptable. Mm-hmm. That would not be acceptable. If I did that, if you did that, I'm sure that our parents would not be supporting us the way that they are.
I think it's pretty embarrassing, though, that, other people have gone to jail for 15, 20 years, and he himself, 3 months, that's it, the end. Thank goodness, though, that the way that he was caught was because he was caught in the act. Somebody saw it, and and they were able to grab because she was unconscious.
In regards to also with Planned Parenthood, only 3% of the fund of what they actually do is for abortions. There's so much more for women's health. Yes. That's what they don't understand is they're completely neglecting the actual evidence and the statistics and the data of what they actually do. So that's completely ridiculous of the hard right for them to even think that.
As far as what Todd Aiken was saying, that if it's a legitimate rape, the female body has a way to try to shut the whole thing down. But then again, she was unconscious. So
funny
unless
how
she's
saying that.
magic to this.
That's like biologically that's not true. How do you just shut down
the body's supposed to be able to tell and just know?
And it shows
when rape is in itself a force.
It shows his no remorse to the situation, because it's not like he went after somebody who could fight back. The North Orange County Tax Seminar was hosted here at CSUF over the summer. Let's take a look at the highlights of that event.
Welcome to the North Orange County Tax Seminar for Nonprofit and Exempt Organizations that were held on August 15, 2016. Almost 1,000 nonprofits were present to learn the ins and outs of tax law. Morteza Ramashian and Susan Cadwallader welcomed the participants to CSUF. Todd Gilman, advocate of California's State Board of Equalization for taxpayers' rights, briefly explained the rights and what to do as a taxpayer. Next, at the first session, Jane and Lisa explained the sales and use. This area has many pitfalls that you should know, such as hot drinks versus cold drinks, and hot food versus cold food, and the specifics of each situation. Also from FTB, Brian Butgood provided information for property tax exemptions for non-profit organizations. Audrey from Franchise Tax Board talked about compliance for exempt organizations. Visit their website and search charities for more information. Sandra Barrientos presented the regulation of charities and professional fundraisers. Within 30 days of receiving assets, charities must file their initial registration. Cloud Parish enlightened the audience with available resources from the Office of the Orange County Assessor. Michelle McElrea had some important tips from the Employment Development Board. Stacy Bergman from YH Advisors presented information regarding IRS filing. And finally, Nancy Berlin clarified the difference and importance between earned and contributed revenue.
The Dakota Access Pipeline, which is proposed to transport crude oil from North Dakota to Illinois, has come under scrutiny recently as the current plans allow for the pipeline to run directly through sacred tribal burial sites. We have a short clip with Amy Goodman at the scene.
6 bulldozers are pulling back right now. People are marching forward in their tracks. There are men, women, and children. More security trucks are pulling up. There are some protesters on horseback. Security has some kind of gas. People are being pepper sprayed. What are you spraying people with?
I haven't sprayed anything, man.
But what is that?
The guy just makes me in the face right now. Amy Goodman, this guy makes me in the face.
Show us the label.
Look, it's all over my sunglasses. Just makes me in the face.
A dog.
Dog bit him right
Throw the
now.
dog on me. These fuckers throw the dog on me. Look at this. Look at this.
Let me say.
Throw the dog on me. No, you did it on purpose, man.
Let me say.
Yeah, come on, the guy.
Over there with that dog. I was like walking, throw the dog on me straight, even without any warning, you know. Look at this. Look at this.
The dog.
Yeah, the dog did it, you know. Look at this. It's there. It's all clear.
Man, your dog just bit this protester. Your dog just bit that protester. Are you telling the dogs to bite the protesters? The dog has blood in its nose and its mouth.
And she's still standing here threatening. You can't put your blame on the dog. You're an evil woman. You can't put your blame.
What happened?
I just a lot of mace and the sweat was dripping it in. The sweat was making it run down into my eyes.
And
I had my glasses on, and that spared me the brunt of it. But then the sweat started putting it in.
How are you doing?
I'm great.
What's your name?
Raina Crow.
And what do you think you've accomplished today?
I hope we've accomplished letting Enbridge know that the people of this nation and the people of this world, tribal or otherwise, have withdrawn their social license to pollute water, and that they need to find an honest, nonviolent way to make a living.
A 48-year-old Australian man admitted to the Sydney Airport police he had smuggled 2.4 pounds of cocaine in his stomach shortly after arriving on a flight from Thailand. The man, who lives in Thailand, had passed a baggage examination when he informed police he had ingested a large number of packets filled with cocaine. An Australian federal police spokeswoman told CNN they were unable to confirm details of the discussion between the man and officials. Later, the man passed 46 pellets containing about 1 pound of cocaine after he was taken into custody, and another 64 were removed once the authorities transported him to the hospital. Australian Border Force Organised Crime Branch Acting Commander Leslie Dalton said, quote, "Importing drugs internally is extremely dangerous as it can lead to serious health risks and even death," end quote. Dalton said the bizarre incident demonstrated the dangerous lengths people go to smuggle drugs.
The School of Nursing recently hosted a poverty simulation event. Our very own Natalie Gomez has the story.
On Sunday, August 21st, Cal State Fullerton's School of Nursing hosted their third Community Action Poverty Simulation. Roughly 80 community health students played the role of lower-income families and were exposed to real-life situations of people who live in poverty. The simulation mirrored a community just like ours, which included a public school, homeless shelter, and a social services department. There was even a pawn shop. Students played as single moms, grandparents raising their grandkids, nuclear families whose breadwinner recently lost their job, and some, like Stephanie, played as seniors living on their own. The goal? To survive the month by keeping their home secure, keeping utilities on, buying the required food for each week, and responding appropriately to unexpected factors in life. The sound of that whistle indicated a week had passed, and any issues regarding money, shelter, or food had to wait to be resolved for the following week. Towards the end, students playing their family roles were looking for an easy income by selling drugs or selling their valuables to the pawn shop.
All you have is large items. Yeah. What I'd recommend is you put an ad in the paper or you go to Craigslist, and I will give you your transportation pass back. Sorry, I can't help you.
Later on, when they're nurses, no matter where they work, in the hospital or out in the community or anywhere, they'll be able to use these skills that they've learned and this knowledge and apply it to be able to really reach people in the ways that will help them the best.
Reporting from Cal State Fullerton, I'm Natalie Gomez with the report.
Now, if you're new to CSUF or were just looking to get involved, Discoverfest was the place to be last week. Our very own Stephanie Stevens has all the details. Let's take a look.
Discoverfest kicked off this week with over 350 student organizations. This two-day event gives students the chance to show their clubs to fellow Titans for an opportunity for any student to get involved.
It's always fun for new freshmen and sophomore to see kind of what's going on, for people to get involved beyond the classroom space. There's a lot of students kind of just come and pass through here, but it becomes more of a family when you have days like Discoverfest, and I'm just happy to be a part of the Titan community, really.
Some areas of Discoverfest include recreation, special interest, cultural, and fraternity and sorority life.
We have all incoming freshmen and incoming transfer students that want to get involved but don't really know how.
Well, that's all the time we have for our first episode of The Report. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Michelle Gao.
And I'm Shayira Arias.
I'm Nicholas Garcia.
And I'm Evan Boydston. Stay fresh, Fullerton.